Damsel is directed by Juan Carlos Feznadilla, and he is the director. At least this is the movie I know him from the most. Because I got to be honest, I had to like IMDb the rest of his filmography, but the one I know him from the most is one of my personal favorites in the zombie genre. Not even like zombie, just like infection, rabid zombie genre. And that's 28 Weeks Later, the sequel to 28 Days. I just love how it builds up to like complete utter fuckery. And then it turns into this like escape from New York type scenario. And it's just pure fucking chaos. And I love chaos. Where the original is more like a horror. It is horror, not like, but it is a horror. With the sort of the found footage-esque. It's not found footage, but it has this grainy, almost like VHS type aesthetic with the grain and the dark blacks and the heavy contrasts and the absurd close-ups to shit that you're just like, what is going on? It has that like gritty feel, like someone's there recording the fuckery. Obviously, like part 2 is more cinematic. It doesn't carry over that grainy, like handheld feel as prominently as the first one had it. But nonetheless, there's a review of one movie, and I'm talking about another one completely. So going into this, I had high expectations. Did it fulfill them? I don't know. So I bet the pitch for this was complete utter insanity. Like, hey, let's do a horror creature feature fairy tale blend. And so like, absolutely, right? So we have had those before. Like Hulu released a film called The Princess, and it's basically like Tangled meets John Wick. Like she's in a tower being held captive. And the star of the film, the main protagonist, is just like John Wick with a braid. Kicks ass, great cinematography, great choreography, great action sequences, and it's a fun hour and a half romp. Like, I've watched it a couple times already. It's very good. So there's this sort of kick of like fairy tale genre with something else. So Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and now we're getting like Peter Pan, and we're getting Pinocchio, and it's all shared universe, and it's wild how like fairy tales and like fables and like child stories have become sort of this platform for expanding into other genres, and I think that's more prominent now than ever, and I love it. I'm 100 down. 100 down? Wow, I'm 100% down for it. And I think this is just another good example of a film that just like doesn't take itself seriously. Now, it has a lot of faults. But everything it does right because it remembers to be fun. And for me, like high concept shit, like is this high concept? I don't know. I mean, to some, I can see the argument where it'd be high concept. I guess that also depends on your definition of something that is high concept. But I think for this genre and what we're used to seeing in it, I think it's definitely something different. Yet somehow it still manages to be just average, maybe a little bit above, like a little bit. I don't score movies on a numerical thing. I don't care. Alphabet A, B, C, D, eat my ass. I don't care about any of that either. I have a list. I have a notebook right here, but I'm gonna try not to like look into it constantly while I'm rambling. I might look at it once or twice. This is the once. So the first thing I have in here, one of the things that the film does badly is the dialogue. Well, first I should go over what the film is. So the movie is, without spoiling anything, a princess who is, not a princess, she's, a farm girl who's part of a poor family, a poor village, is sold off to a prince so that the family, in turn, can receive some money. And they've provided the prince with a wife. Just this weird exchange, this transactional sort of relationship. So the main character, played by Millie Bobby Brown, who's really good in this, she ends up marrying the prince, and then the prince ends up sacrificing her to the dragon. And that's the setup for what transcends after the first 20 or so minutes. It's a cool concept. It's genuinely a cool concept. I love the idea of like a sacrifice, ritualistic sacrifice to a dragon. There is a ceremony that they're sort of enacting before they sacrifice her, which really adds to the film's sort of horror vibes, which I thought was really awesome. I wish they would have explored that, because when it's happening, there's, everyone's wearing their robes, perspective robes, and they're in this sort of like bridge where the hole's there and all these people are lined up, and she has no idea that she's about to get fucking chucked into a hole where there's a dragon ready to feed on her. And it's really, 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 it's a really interesting setup. I mean, everybody, the queen who's doing like the ceremony, the priestess type sort of moment, she has these demonic like devil horns. It's a like a headpiece, but it looks like devil horns. It's like emulating that, and I thought that was really like cool. But the problem is, like, they introduce this ritualistic element and then they go nowhere with it. Once you see it, once it's done, that's it. But once the movie takes off and it's about Millie Bobby Brown trying to escape the dragon, there's a lot of plot twists as to why the dragon is angry. It's not just mindlessly eating. It speaks. The voice of the dragon, by the way. I don't know the lady's name. I know that it's hard to pronounce. I'm not even going to bother because the internet will probably tear me apart, all 5 of you. But she is... Once you hear her, you'll recognize her because she's very iconic. She's an iconic actress, not just in the voice, in the sort of voice acting realm, but in general. And if you've played Assassin's Creed Mirage and you know it well, there's a character who trains the protagonist that you're playing, and she has short hair and she's like the main assassin master. That's her. And like, holy shit, her voice as the dragon with an amplification of like the echo and post, amazing. Like, it reminded me of like Reagan's voice in The Exorcist when I initially heard it. Not all the way through, but it had that same impact. Like, I was like, oh, that's fucking unsettling. So I really liked the voice. And the dragon's design is super creative because the dragon's design is there's sort of a gold plating on her, gold liquid gold just kind of encrusted on her scales. And I just thought that was such a cool design. The CGI is a bit wonky. If you've seen Reign of Fire with Christian Bale and Matthew McConaughey back in 2003, I believe, which is 21 years ago, that movie's dragons are insanely menacing. It's like, that movie is metal as fuck. But it's so good. It's so metal as fuck. It's like post-apocalyptic modern London and like miners trying to survive this like world where dragons have taken over. Matthew McConaughey's a menace. Christian Bale's a hero. It's great. Watch it if you haven't. The dragons there look incredible. And my biggest complaint here is that in the light and in certain areas, the dragon doesn't look more believable than a movie that came out 21 years ago. It's just noticeable enough. Luckily, in the close-ups, like with the eye, there's some close-ups with the eye, there's some close-ups in the scales and the body. Those look great because, they brought the camera in so you can really work on the details, the finer details. But when you're seeing like the overall picture of this dragon and you're seeing all its individual parts together in one shot, you can see where the CGI maybe was pushed too far towards the realm of, not credible. But for the most part, I mean, I'm just nitpicking. But when the film looks good, when the film is committed to a shot or a moment or a scene, I think it knew exactly where to put its money. There's some great scenes with the fire. The fire looks sick. There's a great sequence in the last act that involves the dragon and the castle, which looked fucking sick. And there's a couple shots in the beginning, primarily in a flashback, where you see like the knights go into a cave and there's a bird's eye view and it's like they're all in a triangle. They're like in a triangle as they're walking, and I thought that sort of formation with their armor, in contrast to like the rest of the the rocks and the cave, it just looked really cool. And I thought that was cool. There's also a great shot towards the end with involving Millie Bobby Brown's character and the dragon, and it's in one shot. And I won't spoil too much, but that shot, I mean, as soon as you see it, you're like, yeah, that's a poster. And the only reason they didn't put that as a poster was because if they did, it would have spoiled something. So I get it, but that would have been fucking sick. So love that. A couple no's here. The dialogue is trash. There's even a really cliche, like, you get these in all the medieval movies where there's like a bad bitch walking, there's like knights behind her, and she's like, seize them, or seize her, like, seize that person. And the camera like goes up like right in the fucking crack ass of the face. and it like stops so you can really take in what she says. I was just like, this is fucking, that's terrible. No, then don't deliver that. Don't put that. And then sure enough, it's in the final cut. I don't know why. Baffles the mind. Also, Angela Bassett, fucking goddess in just general anything she plays. She's a goddess. She's an actress. She's a goddess of actresses. She's fantastic. She has that gravitas, that like strong persona. They made her play the stepmom of Millie Bobby Brown. And I don't know how they told her to deliver her lines, but she is above the material they gave her. Like, she's above it, you know? Like, a lot of the lines she's delivering, she's trying to either overact or under-deliver. No one told her to be here. I think she, like, someone missed on telling her what this film was intended to be, because at moments she's playing it like Shakespeare. And it contrasts hard with all the other actors who are just kind of in the middle. And she, like, overacts, but overacting such insignificant, like, not insignificant, but it's just this sort of constant state of concern where her character's just going through a redundant arc throughout the entire movie, and she's just constantly just overacting these moments that should be maybe more subtle. And I think it's just because maybe no one communicated to her what her character's purpose was or how to deliver those lines. I think she was trying to overdo it, and in certain parts she was like overdoing the Shakespeareanness when everyone is just kind of not there. They're like down here. And it just felt like she was like play acting. And I just think the material was like, she's above the material. Like they could have chosen anybody else. Like she deserved more. I would have loved to have seen her as the evil queen. I would have chosen her because her personality, her gravitas, her presence on screen would have easily made her a more menacing queen. And then have the lady who played the queen play the stepmom. But that's neither here nor there. It's, you know, it is what it is. I just think she's too good for the role, if I'm being honest. Okay, and there's this really stupid part in the movie where they're gonna sacrifice another princess, and well, they're trying to sacrifice the main character's sister. Like, well, we killed your sister, might as well, you know, fucking, and sure enough, they try to sacrifice the sister, and the prince goes, "She's just a child." I'm like, bitch, she is like maybe 3 or 4 years younger than her sister. So you draw the line at like minors? I'm just like, that's fucked up. Either way you toss it. 18, 19, 17, 16, just don't sacrifice anyone. Just thought it was really weird that the prince would be like, that's where I draw the line. She's like 3 years younger. It's like, bro, you already committed the sin. You already killed one. Why is this where you draw? And you've already killed so many. Like, there's a moment where you realize, like, this has been going on for a while and they've killed a lot of princesses. Why is she the exception? It's just like, it's like the writers are trying to, like, humanize him to make him seem like he's doing this because his mother is forcing him to, and sort of empathize. That completely missed the mark. I was like, you know, fuck this guy. This guy's trash. This is a good, like, sit down with your friends, sit down with your parents, sit down with your significant other, sit down with your fucking cat, and dress the cat up as Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon, and then just sit the cat down with you and watch the fucking movie, because it's a good time. That being said, I don't know how to close this off. So I'm just gonna...